different characters
Yes, we're gonna hear it again.
fucking each other. Welcome to the internet. Hold on to your socks, cause a random guy just kindly sent you photos of his cock. They are grainy and off-putting. He just sent you more. Don't act surprised, you know you like it, you whore. See a man by hand. I interest you in everything, all of the time. A little bit of everything, all of the time. Apathy's a tragedy and boredom is a crime.
Okay, that is a statement, and that is 1,000,000,000% correct. Holy shit. Apathy is a tragedy and boredom is a crime. To consume more content and get more ads and make more money from those ads. It's like, how do we get people to watch things quicker? Oh, I know. Let's introduce these devices. Basically, intentionally changing brain chemistry to make people more attention span depraved, essentially, or deprived. Not depraved, but deprived. Making attention spans shorter and shorter and shorter. So you have to consume more and more and more. And creating shorter forms of content that get more and more advertisement spaces added to them so that you get more ads, more money. Holy crap. Okay, there we go. So, yes, this is the character that Bo Burnham's playing right now, is that kind of Machiavellian, behind-the-scenes sort of like, oh, you thought it was this? No, we've actually programmed you to be this way so we can turn you into a wallet. Alright, hey everybody, this is LMP Games, and we're back today for another kind of one-off video. Let me go back to the beginning because I was doing some testing with, make sure the audio is working on that. But, so, today we're going to be reacting to something. Welcome to the Internet by Bo Burnham. I have seen something of his from a long time ago. It was something about, like, I think one of Bo Burnham's kind of, like, style is, comedic music, right? I believe. At least that's, like, a core component of his comedic style, comedic juice, if you will. And, I'm pretty sure I saw something from him a long time ago. Dealing with, like, seeing things from God's perspective or something like that. From one of his specials. And I think it's like one of the only things I remember from that special was that. That was like a long, long time ago. I've been aware of Bo Burnham for since then, and have seen clips here and there of different things. I don't think I've seen anything from this, but I might have, I'm not sure. But, as with, like, the voice play... Was it voice play? No, it was, is it the voice play one, or was the Rammstein Deutschland video reaction that we did? One of those two was recommended to take a look at those by Trash Can Enthusiast. He's a member of my community has been for a long time, and every once in a while he'll shoot me these things, and it's like, oh, you should react to this, you should react to this. And most of the time I'll say, yeah, and then maybe sometime. This one is like, oh, Bo Burnham, I remember seeing something from this guy before. So this is a request from Trash Can. And I thought, you know what, let's just go ahead and check it out. Because this sounds like, welcome to the internet, right? Sounds like it's going to be something interesting. Like, we've had these kind of meme joke songs, if you will, before. I think the one that I'm most familiar with is the Naruto dub, Aaron This for Porn. I remember seeing that, like, 20 years ago or something. Something insane like that. Like the mid-2000s, seeing that thing. And there's been, like, variations of that throughout, the last couple decades. So that's kind of where I'm coming at with this one from that frame of reference, is like, he's going to be talking about, welcoming somebody to the internet and all the breadth and depravity and insanity that there is these days. So that's kind of where my headspace is at the moment. As I do with all these different kinds of reaction videos, I'm going to be pausing if I have something to say. So if you're looking for somebody that's just going to sit and watch the thing and not say anything about it, this is not the video for you. Because because I will be pausing whenever Bo says something that I have a commentary on. Also, just for copyright purposes, because you have to do that. To transform the work into something that's fair use. So that's how this is going to go. So let's just go ahead and jump into it and see what we get. So this is Welcome to the Internet by Burnham. It says from inside, so I'm guessing it's like an album, or maybe it's some sort of special somewhere, potentially. So this is a part of that. So there's probably going to be, we'll see how it goes. Like, and a lot of times you like take things out of context of a show or a special or something. Sometimes they lose context for what's in it, but we'll see if that's the case with this or not.
Welcome to the internet.
I'm immediately going to pause and piss people off, but I just wanted to talk about the presentation here a bit. Like it's really interesting. Like center screen, spotlight. It's very kind of draws your attention to the center of the screen. He's really giving. Bo's really giving off like this kind of like showman vibe, right? Like. Like, pay attention to me, I will explain the internet to you and tell you about the things you can find there, kind of vibes. Anyway, let's go ahead and continue. I'm sure there'll be more things to talk about very shortly.
Look around. Anything that brain of yours can think of can be found. We've got mountains of content, some better, some worse. If none of it's of interest to you, you'd be the first. Welcome.
Interesting. So the whole idea that there's so much content on the internet these days that there's literally something for anything you'd want to find, good and bad. Like you're saying, there's some worse. There's a lot worse these days. Like back in the day, right? Back in like the early 2000s, mid 2000s, the internet was basically just a playground for memeing and joking with friends and MySpace and all that kind of stuff, right? It's like very, I wouldn't call the internet small even back then, but it was like very, I guess, innocent might be a good way to put it. Even though it wasn't, I mean, 4chan was a thing at that point in time, so it wasn't innocent. I do think that some of the darker aspects of the internet came out of 4chan and the kinds of behavior that board kind of fostered, I do think are the fault of 4chan and other more nefarious actors. At least partially. Not entirely, but partially. And then, like, you also had, like, the whole idea of, like, corporatizing the internet. And all that things, you know, like, I'm trying to think. What was the first website that was actually released that was like geared towards monetization? Like actually like a subscription kind of thing almost, but not really at that. Like that wasn't really like a thing at the time. I'm trying to think. I mean, you had AOL, but that was more of like a service as opposed to like a website that you would then go to and have to pay money to kind of use. I mean, obviously the first thing that comes to mind is porn sites, because that's always been a thing, but what would be the first kind of like thing that people would go to all the time that would require money? What was the first thing like that? I don't want to say YouTube, but I mean, like, around that era is when Viacom sued YouTube for the whole content ID system, and then they had to, like... I don't think it was YouTube. That was the first one that did that. There's probably some smaller site somewhere. I know we had, like, catalog websites and things, like, back in the 90s. So that's not, like, what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, like, websites that were, like, designed to, one, pull you into it, feed you all kinds of ads for like revenue, and then keep you there, kind of thing. And I don't think YouTube was the first one that did that. I think there were a couple others that did that first. Maybe Maybe it was MySpace, honestly, because that's like the very first sort of main, like, large social media kind of platform, I believe. Either MySpace or I guess technically AIM was kind of like that, sort of. But like MySpace was like the first big kind of like early Facebook, so a lot of like what came after MySpace was directly influenced by that idea of like social networking. So it could have been MySpace, it could have been YouTube. I'm not going to go do a whole bunch of research on to answer that question right now, but it would be really interesting to go back and look at and see what the very first website was that was designed to basically trap a user on it and kind of keep you there and generate money off the user being on the website through just like non-service kind of means, like, you know, websites that are just designed to have ads everywhere you go and that kind of stuff. Yeah, okay, let's go and continue.
To the internet, come and take a seat. Would you like to see the news or any famous women's feet? There's no need to panic.
Got that.
This isn't a test. Just nod or shake your head and we'll do the rest.
Oh my god. That, like I said, there's gonna be a lot of pausing. This whole idea that he just like breathed into existence. Well, not really breathed, but talked about this whole idea of like just give us a tiny little indication of what you're looking for and we'll give you all this stuff, right? That's like modern search engines. You type in something and then you get like the first 20, 30 results are kind of related to that, but then as you go deeper into the search results, you start getting a little bit more kind of removed from what you searched and you get a whole nother layer of things, another layer underneath that, and then another layer underneath that, and before you know it, you're in something completely unrelated to the thing you're looking for, but now you're in this kind of rabbit hole of information that you're just kind of following along, learning things. Like, people who go on the internet for the very first time in their lives, I can just imagine how kind of consumed they are with like the following that trail of information, because it's like all brand new to you, so you don't know what you're looking at, what you're reading. It's all really interesting, so you just want to follow everything everywhere, basically. And like search engines are built around the idea of take the smallest amount of information that the user gives you and give them the widest data set of things. So yeah, that is especially true today with AI. AI is like the hyper realization of that idea, right? Because you can just type in something and AI goes and trolls the web and like finds all this stuff. Now, AI searching of the web is a little bit more precise because it gets you things that are more related to the stuff you're looking for. So technically AI is a way to kind of also cut out a lot of the rabbit holing that happens. But at the same time, it also exposes you to a lot more specific information you wouldn't normally find about things. So it could be another different type of rabbit holing through that. And in addition to that, AI will lie to you most of the time, so you shouldn't really, you know, if you tell AI to summarize a series of websites about something, you might get something that's kind of sort of correct, but in most cases you're going to get really badly summarized information that isn't actually accurate. And that's how most AIs work these days. You really can't take anything an AI tells you without actually verifying it yourself manually. Just because they are so beholden to, one, the size of the data they pull in. So the more data an AI pulls in, the worse the quality is. Which is counterintuitive. You think it'd be the other way around. More information, better result. No. More information, worse result, because AIs cannot parse that much information all at once and do it cohesively and do it not cohesively, but do it coherently. That's like why you start getting AIs that will start spitting out gibberish and things. It's because it takes in too much information. It can't parse everything down, so it tries to summarize things. So first of all, it'll scan through it, and say like, okay, in these specific places where we have keywords that are kind of like what the user's asking about, take the blocks of text around those and scan them. Now, take the scans of those sections. Scan as in like skim, as in like get a general idea of what that section is saying about it. Now take those skimmed sections and then paraphrase them into a complete statement about the thing that the user is asking about, and then recontextualize that and interpret it back into an actual response. So the smaller the data set is and the more specific the data set is, the more accurate AI is. Once you start getting huge data sets that have lots of words that aren't all related to the specific thing, AI gets terrible at doing that. And I think a lot of people don't understand that, which is why like you see a lot of people on like Twitter these days being like, hey Grok, is this true? And they're asking this AI that's built off of information on Twitter, which is not always, you know, suspect at best as to its accuracy. And you know, people are relying way too much on stuff like that for figuring out if stuff is true or what you know, factual information gathering kind of stuff. It does not help that Google has their own AI thing at the top of a search page that's pretty much wrong all the time about most things. I think I've seen it spit out something reasonably accurate maybe twice in the last 4 months or so. So it doesn't help we got that there, because then people look at that and say, oh, this is Google telling us what's in these search results and summarizing it, so it must be accurate. No, it's not even close usually. So I think if Bill were to have done this video now, instead of back whenever, what was this, 2021 I think is when I saw the date was, and done it now, I think there'd be a whole section in this song somewhere about AI and how that's kind of changed things again. But yeah, let's go ahead and continue.
To test. Just nod or shake your head and we'll do the rest. Welcome to the internet. What would you prefer? Would you like to fight for civil rights or tweet a racial slur?
The dichotomy of social media. Yes, you can fight for civil rights, or you can go out and be a racist asshole. But the reason I was gonna stop before that was the music sounds very Carnival barkery, right? It's like lighthearted plotting maybe is the right word, not plotting, but plotting, and like weird sound effects and everything. Kind of like, you know, I am the showman of this carnival, and I'm telling you what you can find here, bringing you in and getting you interested with all these, you know, seemingly innocent things, only to then keep you trapped in this tourist trap while I bring in more people so we can make more money. Interesting thing there. But yeah, no, that whole thing about like the whole dichotomy of like, oh, you can do this thing or do the exact opposite, and that's all, you know, that's basically everything on the internet, period, is like you have one thing and then you have its polar opposite on the other hand, and they're existing in the same space, sometimes on the same websites, and conflict with each other in very crazy ways.
You prefer? Would you like to fight for civil rights or tweet a racial slur? Be happy, be horny, be bursting with rage.
Yeah,
we got a million different ways to engage.
Keyword engage. Engagement. That is basically what the internet is these days. It used to be about just creating content and having fun. These days it's all about what gets you the most views. And like how, you know how like, especially YouTube and Twitter are all like, they're all heavily generated towards drama content these days, right? Like, how can I take something this person says and turn it into this huge drama that I can farm? Whether for good because of actual, you know, good reasoning and stuff like that, or for more nefarious purposes. Like, I'm going to take this thing this person says, twist it out of all context and meaning, and say something because I know that my fans will take it and say, oh, hey, my chosen content creator has said something and I agree with it. I'm going to spread it everywhere. And before you know it, you've got, you know, dozens of people drama farming it because you've created this conflict that doesn't actually exist, and nobody really cares that it isn't real anymore. It's just, oh, I want to see things burn down to the ground kind of attitude, and that's all because of engagement, because conflict draws more views than most other forms of content these days, because we've been kind of preconditioned by legacy media, by social media, by the way that we monetize those things. And as content creators, we've found that when we do these things, we get way more money than when we don't, because people are, and I think at this point, I think I'm going to put a lot of the blame on reality TV. A lot of reality TV is scripted horse crap, in my opinion. It's all about generating conflict and adversity and conflict. Let's put it that way. It started out as adversity, like Survivor, for example, right? That's decent reality show content. There's adversity, there's conflict that's created, but it's a little more potentially natural than something like The Real Housewives, which is all just manufactured drama just because people like watching that kind of stuff. And we took that concept and shoved it on the internet, and it's just taken over everything, because that's kind of how those kinds of shows hardwired a certain groups of different generations to consume content in that kind of way. And it's unfortunate, because that's the kind of stuff now that gets views, that gets monetized, gets money rolling in. And as content creators, a lot of people may not see it as a job, but at the same time, they also see it as a way to make money. If that's it's a weird sort of dichotomy in how content creators read their own content too. So whatever gets the most money is something that people will continue to do. And it's like reactors. The one reason I don't want to make this more of a React channel, and something I don't like about reactors in general, is like the idea of, oh, if this reaction series doesn't get enough views, doesn't get enough likes, doesn't get enough subscriptions on whatever platform it's on, I'm not going to continue it, kind of thing. It's like, finish what you start. Don't be lazy about it just because you're like, oh, I thought that chasing this trend was going to get me a lot more subscriptions, a lot more people to my Patreon. But it didn't, so I'm going to stop it because it's not cost effective for me to do it anymore. And it's like, if that's all you're doing it for, that's fine. At the same time, it's not really being I don't want to say fair. It's not really being genuine to your audience. That's the right way to put it. Especially ones that join, like subscribe or join your Patreon, or follow you on Twitch, or follow you on whatever place you're at doing this stuff for that specific content. Now, argument is, well, those people could just leave. Problem is that once you kind of get into the content feed of a creator and you like that creator's content, more often than not, you will just stay, right? So either intentionally or not, they use this popular media or like a trend that's happening to say, okay, I'm going to pull in a bunch of people using this. And I know that from past experience that my content is liked by people that watch my content. So I'm going to get them hooked on my content through chasing this particular fad that's happening right now. And then they'll kind of get stuck into this. And then I'm just going to stop that, because I know that eventually that fad's going to fade away, that trend's going to fade away, and they're not going to get any more views, or not going to get that many additional subscribers or members or patrons or anything like that. So I'm going to switch on to something entirely different and just end that particular thing that was series I was reacting to. That's kind of like the more nefarious side of the React content, is people that use the nature of trend chasing for nefarious purposes like that. Which is why I always say that if I ever do something, it's always going to be very specific and like a not very often thing. Like even I've done a couple different reactions to shows. I've done The Expanse season 3, 4. I think it was season 4, and Man in the High Castle season 4. But I haven't done anything else in that. Even though I have 2 other ones planned, I'm not gonna make react content regularly. You know, it's like a once in a while kind of thing. Just like these kind of videos, these one-off videos. But that's, you know, that whole landscape of like how all this content is kind of farmed and how monetization has kind of, like all other things in life, has kind of ruined things on the internet is an interesting allegory here. Well, let's go ahead and continue. Let's continue. We're 24 minutes in and only 42 seconds into the video. This is going about as well as quickly as I expected it was going to.
We got a million different ways to engage. Welcome to the internet. Put your cares aside. Here's a tip for straining pasta. Here's a 9-year-old who died.
Some of the darker stuff creeping into this now, and that is true. There's some really sick shit on the internet these days, and what's crazy is that it's like found its way onto platforms it shouldn't be on. Twitter, example. You can go searching, scrolling around on Twitter, and you can find accounts that are geared towards stuff like that, like really violent, gory content. Almost like snuff content in a way. And I mean, it's been getting better, but like back, like the early 2020s, especially like the late 2010s, you could find all kinds of accounts that would just post up all this really ridiculous crap. And the content teams couldn't keep up with banning those accounts, basically. And there's other websites that seem more prevalent. There's actually entire websites dedicated to this stuff. And other even worse things as well. It is definitely a dark side of the internet that kind of, again, I'm going to attribute some of the rise of it to 4chan, because a lot of this kind of more edgy stuff started there and just kind of kept getting, as things do on the internet, it keeps getting more and more and more extreme, right? Because it feeds into people's, I don't want to like start well, I mean, maybe it is also an aspect of psychology of like, the internet is kind of like the collective unconscious of humanity, because everything and anything can go onto it, and you can put anything onto it, you can find anything there. So like, people searching out content creates that content, if you will. You know, if you go searching for something, eventually somebody's going to find out, oh, somebody's searching for this, and they're going to find a way to monetize it somehow. This is why like cryptocurrencies are such kind of like such a huge deal, because there's no real easy way to track things down, like from a law enforcement perspective. So cryptocurrencies, meme coins, and things can be used to pay for illegal stuff right on the internet, and it's really hard to trace. And you could have also other kinds of currencies that are harder to gain access to in terms of that sort of aspect as well from the law enforcement perspective. So it makes, you know, things have gotten to a point where there's some really extreme stuff out there, and there's no good way to deal with it at this point. And in fact, there probably was never going to be a good way to deal with it in the first place anyway, because it's the nature of something like the internet is that you can't police the content of the internet. It's impossible to do. Companies that are like on YouTube all the time striking content down, I don't get why they do it for, because they get very little money from it. They don't lose any money from it, and the money they pay for people to make the systems that do it, if it's automated, or to pay people to manually do it, would make it seem like a valueless and money hole, a proposition and a money hole that they could, you know, kill out of their budget and like have all that money back to do other things with. But that's how things are on YouTube at the moment, and have been since Viacom bent YouTube over in court way back in 2007. But yeah, so we're starting to see some of that darker sides, the darker nature of the internet kind of creep into this description of welcome to what the internet is and what's on it. Which is interesting. It's also kind of like going back to the Carnival Barker comment, it's kind of like stringing the user along to more and more extreme information, more extreme content, more extreme things in a carnival that's like, oh, come see all these sideshow people. Have you ever seen a bearded woman or something like that? You know, the traditional kind of tropey sort of thing you find on this kind of like a carnival kind of thing. An old world carnival kind of thing. And it's kind of, you know, it kind of mirrors how the internet kind of pulls someone down into these more extreme kind of rabbit hole information zones. So it's interesting pacing on the video as a lyrically too. But all underneath this not threatening, very upbeat sort of carnival tune in the background. So it feels very whimsical. When in fact, you know, you can kind of feel how things are starting to shift a bit in the lyrics.
Cares aside, here's a tip for straining pasta. Here's a 9-year-old who died. We got movies and doctors and fantasy sports and a bunch of colored pencil drawings of all the different characters in Harry Potter fucking each other. Welcome.
Yes, God. Yes, we have that. That is on here too. And technically, that could probably be considered a form of illegal content, if you wanted to go that far. Yes, we have that as well. We have, I would say, probably most information on the internet is related to porn, honestly. If you were to like go through and somehow be able to scrape the entire internet, impossible to do, but if you could do it, you would probably find that there is way more illicit content on the internet than any other kind of content that exists. Just because it makes money, unfortunately, in a lot of cases. I did not expect him to pull out the Rule 34 thing in there, but I mean, you cannot talk about the internet without talking about Rule 34. It's what it is.
And a bunch of colored pencil drawings of all the different characters in Harry Potter fucking each other. Welcome to the internet. Hold on to your...
He almost broke character. even that was a little bit too much for him. Yes. Now I would be wondering to know if that was literally like that was a plan kind of thing, or if he literally like broke character for a moment, because it felt like he broke character, but it might have been intentional. I don't know. But oh my god, that whole last section there is insane.
Pencil drawings of all the different characters.
Yes, we're gonna hear it again.
Fucking each other. Welcome to the internet. Hold on to your socks, cause a random guy just kindly sent you photos of his cock. They are grainy and hot pudding. He just sent you more. Don't act surprised, you know you like it, you whore.
Oh
see a man beheaded, get offended, see a shrink. Show us pictures of your children, tell us
every
thought you think. Start a rumor, buy a broomer, send a death threat to a boomer, or DM a girl and groomer, do a zoomer, find a tumor.
Okay. Holy shit, that was a fire hose of information, and we're getting kind of to the part where this is kind of an exemplary of how the internet is a bad thing. So, people watching this on YouTube, have you ever spent way too long watching videos on YouTube by going over to the recommended section, going to a video, clicking on it? Maybe you're watching a bunch of reactions to this video. I've done that before with stuff I watched from reaction channels. Like, most recently, I watched a bunch of people that were reacting to Hannibal. It's like the Real Rejects just did a reaction to Hannibal, so there's like a bunch of other people that were in the recommendeds that were reacting to it, so I watched all their reactions over the weekend and spent maybe like 3.5 hours doing that. Well, more than that, actually. Probably closer to 5.5, actually. And like I could list off a litany number of times I did this, where it's like, it's Sunday, got work in the morning, but there's this video I'm watching, and I want to see other people react to this video, and I'm sitting there at like 11 p.m. and then all of a sudden it's like 3 a.m. and I've just been watching people reacting to the same video for ever. YouTube content vortex. fits in with this whole idea of this firehose of information. Websites have been designed these days, and have been for a while, to trap you on them. You watch something and they're like, oh, the user's watching this thing. They've watched, I don't know, either, I think it goes by how long you watch a video and how many videos on the same general thing you watch, and then it's like, oh, I'm just going to give this user more of this content to keep the user here. The reason for that is, and it's a very addictive cycle, right? And a lot of times you'll get trapped in there, and then you realize, oh, I have this thing I have to do, and it's this time now, and I don't have any more, you know. It's like, you know, I need to get sleep for work, and it's like 4 a.m. you have to get up at 8, so now you're going to get like 2.5 hours of sleep or something like that. So it kind of like forces you to pull yourself out of it. But other times you just stay stuck in this loop of consuming content. And this is an intentional design choice, right? The people that make these websites have designed them to be addictive by feeding you positive feedback loops, dopamine loops, where it's like, oh, you like this content? Here's some more. Here's even more. Here's even more of this content. And before you know it, you're in this kind of thing where it's just this fire hose of information coming at you, and now you've got videos related to that video that are similar content but aren't that same content, and now you're on a different layer or different branch of that content loop, and you're watching some other Bo Burnham video maybe, or you're watching George Carlin or some other comedy related content, and you're stuck in a new loop of content around that, and then you go to a different one around that, and so on and so forth. It's all to keep you on the website, to feed you ads, or to get monetization out of you by doing that, right? The longer you are on the website, the more money they make, essentially is how it goes. And they design the websites around an addictive psychological mechanisms to keep you consuming content and keep you giving money to them in some way, shape, or form. That's like binge watching shows. That's another example of that kind of thing, where it's like, oh, here's 8 episodes of this entire show. We're just going to give them to you, and you can watch them whenever you want to. But people don't do that. They watch them all at once. If they're not doing like reactors usually don't do that. Reactors have started doing that kind of. But you know, people just binge the entire season of a show in one day or night or something. And depending on like how it's monetized, that makes it so that the owners of that content get a bunch of money from it, right? Because you're spending all this time watching this. Or you're watching it and you're invested in it, and so you want to see the next season because you've consumed all this stuff, and now you want to go to see what happens next, right? It's kind of like taking how weekly episodic, weekly serialized shows used to be, and like condensing it into a very short season but very content heavy that gets you more invested in that content. And then they can keep you on the platform for the next episode, the next season until it drops, and they get you to watch other things in the meantime, and then you kind of get trapped in a similar thing with like the YouTube content vortex, where it's like you're just sitting there constantly consuming things on this platform. And then we have the whole proliferation of streaming services now that kind of mirrors what streaming was supposed to get rid of, which is the billions of different channels. And how every channel became monetized because cable providers realized, oh, we can dissect all these things into all these different package groups, and like, oh, you have to pay extra money for all this stuff now. And now streaming services are like that, where it's like everything is everywhere. If you want to watch everything, you have to be subscribed to everything. That's just like all this money flowing into these corporations. So you can access all this content that used to just be all in one place, albeit packaged up by cable providers to, you know, nickel and dime you. But now it's all these different streaming platforms, all over the place, available from different places, not available in some places, which gave rise to like the whole VPN industry as a means of getting around country filters and things like that. So it's a crazy web of like insanity that's been happening over the last 15-20 years.
And here's a healthy breakfast option. You should.
Let's go back a second.
Your children tell it, or see a man beheaded, get offended.
Yeah, so Let's go. Let's
see a shrink. Show us pictures of your children. Tell us every thought you think.
Okay. So you guys see how this is getting faster and faster and faster, the song is, as we go on. But now we're like in this constant stream of like things, and it's like almost too fast for your mind to keep up with. And it's intentional because what he's doing here is he's doing the same thing websites do, which is gives you so much information that as you're viewing it, you kind of get stuck interpreting each bit, and you don't realize you're kind of stuck in this mode of catching up to what's happening, and then you're kind of, again, stuck in a vortex of information, and it keeps you on the website. And he's kind of showing how this works in practice. But yeah, so you got even more extreme things happening now, like actual snuff stuff, person being beheaded. Then you get like the Facebook people, Facebook parents that are like, oh, I'm going to show you every photo of my kids, tell you everything that's happening, and give you unprecedented access to stalk us and potentially kidnap people and stuff. Facebook has done more for criminals and like identity thieves than any website in the history of mankind. Because if somebody really wanted to go out and steal your identity or somehow social engineer you to get access to your credit card account or something, and you weren't familiar with like smishing, phishing, all those kinds of different malicious tactics and tools that they can use to get that information to get into your account from you, they can go on to your Facebook page and like see all the stuff you have, all the people you're associating with, all the events you've gone to, and say, oh yeah, I was this person that was at your third cousin's bachelor party, and we talked about X, Y, and Z, and people are so I don't want to say content-brained because that's not really what it is, but people are so invested in connecting with other people that a lot of times they'll fall for stuff like that. It's like, oh yeah, I remember you, when they never actually met the person, right? And that actual event never happened at that particular event that they were at. They never actually met a person and talked about these things, but they remember that they do because they think they do, because the thought about it was planted, and they're like, oh, it must have happened, I just forgot about it. And then before you know it, you're giving them out, information about things you're doing or whatever, and they find some way to get into your bank account and steal all your money. Happens all the day. Happens every day, all the time. And that's because we put so much personal information out on the internet that that people can just do that. And that's why, like doxing is such a thing, a big thing, because there's also a lot of, especially when it comes to content creators, influencers, especially women on the internet that are influencers, content creators, especially VTubers. Given how parasocial the internet is these days, people have some really fracked up mental what is the word? Complexes that predispose them to being hyper, like, stalky and stuff like that. Like, for example, a little bit ago, like it was a couple months ago, some VTubers were out in, I don't think, was it Japan? Was it Japan? It might have been in Japan. But some guy walked up to them, some disgruntled fan walked up to one of the VTubers and stabbed her. And it's like, how does this happen? It's because of the nature of how the internet's become so jacked up, right? I don't think anybody is under any kind of delusion that the internet's a good place. The internet is a really fucked up place. Not just for the stuff that's on it, but for how people act on it, right? The whole idea of anonymity protecting you from the stuff that you do. But then the problem with that is that you get used to that frame of mind, and then it becomes more ingrained in your personality, and you're suddenly doing this stuff offline too. And like the parasocial connection between content creators and their fans is one of the places where that's like the most prevalent at, I think, in terms of like just weird behavior that people have towards content creators, especially VTubers and female content creators, I would think. But male content creators too have this to some extent as well. But yeah, no, the internet is a crazy place these days. Go back a bit.
Man-headed, get offended, see a shrink. Show us pictures of your children, tell us every thought you think. Start a rumor, buy a broomer, send a death threat to a boomer, or DM a girl and groomer, do a zoomer, find a tumor in your here's a healthy breakfast option. You should kill your mom. Here's why women never fuck you. Here's how you can build a bomb. Which Power Ranger are you? Take this quirky quiz.
Yeah.
Obama sent the immigrants to vaccinate your kids.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, that end of that whole spiel was insane. Okay, let's see if we can go through this here. So yeah, I have to go back. I want to make sure I heard this correctly. Not the groomer part, but the one right after it. And also, we can't really take what this is based on Google's translation of it. So unless this is like an actual translation that Bo put in for the video, and this is not automatically Google translations. Where was it?
A girl and groomer, do a zoomer, find...
There. Okay, no, so it was... So, this is kind of a double... You can kind of see... Okay, so... Okay, this is kind of a... This is like a double entendre kind of sentence there. So, the reason I wanted to look at this is because you see how it says, DM a girl and groomer. So, groom her, groomer. Do a zoomer. So this is the one I was looking for. So do a zoomer. So it's like a Zoom. So like have a Zoom meeting, but also, you know, do a zoomer in the actual phrasing of that as it appears to be. You know, like a lot of talking about like EDP and supposedly Diddy and stuff like that, where, you know, people are preying upon younger fans that they have on the internet as content creators. I think this is a reference to that as well, but it's kind of packaged in this double entendre for other things as well. But I had to go back and confirm that that's actually what that's in. But yeah, like anonymity, right? That's the other aspect of it. And like I said, we're going to be talking a lot, so. We're at 1 minute 25 seconds, and we're already at a 46-minute video. Anonymity on the internet is good, but it's also bad because it really exacerbates all the bad shit, right? Like sending death threats, perfect example. There is no place whatsoever, period, in the discussion of when sending a death threat to somebody is acceptable. Doesn't matter what they've done. Doesn't even matter if it's like EDP or something, right? Threatening to kill somebody is, frankly, it should be a crime to do it. And it technically is, but it's not enforced by any kind of law organization agency because so I think it used to be, right? It used to be something that was taken really seriously because back in the day, before the internet became became a degenerate place, death threats were very few and far between. And law enforcement agencies took them very seriously. These days, there are so many of them that unless there's a significant threat or credibility to the threats, law enforcement cannot validate, verify, and deal with every single one of them, right? Because there's just too many. Because there's too many people making them. So they're relegated to like really important people, usually. So if you just send like a random death threat to a random person, unless there's actually unless the person has information or has evidence that you are actively doing it and you're like stalking them or something like that, usually those kinds of things when reported are kind of like, unless you want to actively, you know, figure out who this person is online and press charges against them, we're not going to do anything about it, kind of thing, right? As opposed to like you send a death threat to a politician or the president of a country or something, and then you get a visit from like the Secret Service or from the FBI or something potentially, or maybe Scotland Yard or something. like, even the reporting of crimes that happen on the internet has become kind of a caste system almost, of like, you know, you're not that important enough for us to deal with this right now, unless you have credible information that your life's actually in danger. We're just going to ignore it, kind of thing, right? And it's just because I don't say that it's not really moral, right? It has nothing to do with morals. It's the civility of the internet has just been degrading so much over time, to the point of where these days, if you have a civil argument on Twitter, it's like this monumental moment that's like, holy shit, it actually happened. A civil argument that didn't end in name calling and all this other bullshit. Just cordially ends with like, well, we'll just agree to disagree, kind of thing. It's become such a rarity these days. It's just like insane. It's like a unicorn. And then you got things like swatting and all that other kind of stuff that's just like, you know, why? Why do you hate this person you've never met before so much that you want to send the police to their house to potentially kill them? Because depending on like the information you give, like if you tell somebody that they're like holding hostages at their house or something and they're threatening to kill people, cops will take that kind of tip very seriously. And I think these days they're a bit more aware of swatting and how things go. But back like when that was the first kind of a thing, it was like super dangerous. You could easily get shot by cops, you know. And streamers and content creators have gotten a lot better about dealing with that kind of stuff, right? For the most part. Well, I don't want to say better at dealing with it, but like, you know, there's a kind of like a common sort of way that people are now kind of approaching how to respond in that situation, as opposed to like how it might have happened in the past. You get like people like XQC that have like literally had to move I don't know how many times because people keep on doxing him and he's like worried about getting swatted and like harassed and stalked and stuff like that. And it's just like this whole culture on the internet of like, I can be the assholiest asshole possible and that's fine, because it should be expected by everyone that people will just be total degenerate assholes to them, because that's just what happens on the internet. It's like the acceptance of that behavior is a huge problem, and I don't think there's any way to put the toothpaste back in the tube at this point. It's just people are going to be that way because they think they're being cool and edgy, or they actively actually want to hurt people that they do this stuff to. And they don't have a concept of what's right and wrong anymore. And that has nothing to do with, you know, religion or anything like that. Morals are a social construct. They don't come from anywhere. They come from what we deem as acceptable. So if enough people on the internet came together and said, you know what, if we see you doing that shit, we're going to do something about it. We're going to try and find out who you are and report you to the authorities, or we're going to make sure that you're banned from as many streams as possible, or something like that. Like if there was some sort of collective action against people that did swatting and stuff like that, that was like tangible in the real world, not just shutting down an account and they make another account, but actually having real world consequences for stuff like that, I think a lot of this would just go away. The problem is that's kind of hard to do without having actual, you know, the resources of like a law enforcement or an FBI agency kind of thing. Though internet sourcing is getting better these days, but still it can't do everything. So yeah, this whole kind of stream of like more and more crazy stuff that Bo's kind of going into is all kind of out of this whole fact that like, oh, I'm anonymous online and I can do and say whatever I want to without any repercussions kind of environment that we've built up over the many years. It's only going to get worse before it gets better, and the ways it might get better might be technically even worse, because then we get things like, you know, you get Florida down there banning the use of social media if you're not over a certain age. You got bills in Texas where they're like saying, oh, we're going to ban all anime because we don't like it. And it's like a natural extension of like the internet doing its thing. And people looking at that and saying, you know what, we don't like this, so we're gonna deal with it in the worst ways possible. which is also another failing of humanity. It's like, oh, here's this thing that's happening, we don't like it, we're going to have this extreme overreaction because we are incapable of having a nuanced way of handling something. And that also kind of spills over into online drama as well. It's like, you either, especially on like Blue Sky and Twitter, it's like you have to be 100% on this side of the issue or you're on the other side of the issue. You can't be somewhere in the middle anymore in a lot of cases. And yeah, against part of the hyper-tribalization of the internet, which all feeds back into this whole stew of insanity that we've allowed to be brewing here. And honestly, not all of it's from the people of the internet. A lot of it's also manufactured by groups that are doing it for nefarious reasons. I don't know if you knew about this or heard about it, but back in the 2016 election season, Russia was essentially creating groups on Facebook that would have competing political ideological events at the same time at the same place, and hoping that by putting those two groups together and if enough people went there would be some sort of conflict that would happen. So I don't think anything really ever came out of those, but they were trying to do it. And it's just like an example of how people can use the internet for actual harm in terms of like a societal level kind of thing. And that's like something outside of the control of just the average user on the internet, right? That's like a foreign government using the internet to do really weird and crazy shit. And then you have organizations like Anonymous that have, I think Anonymous is more kind of a gray sort of thing where it's like technically they are breaking the law, but they're doing it for somewhat reasonable reasons. Then you got people like LulzSec that are entirely, black hats. They're not doing reasonable things for the reasonable reasons illegally. They're doing illegal things for whatever self-fulfilling reasons illegally. So there's like all kinds of different things that kind of pollute the internet with all this negative juju, we'll call it, negative energy that just kind of permeates through everything. It's really unfortunate because the internet had a lot of potential back in the day. I wonder if Bill will talk about any of that.
Find a tumor in your, here's a healthy breakfast option. You should kill.
Oh, and then that whole thing where like the last part there where it's like, what was it? You can find it. Look at next second.
DM a girl and groomer, do a zoomer, find a tumor.
Yeah, find a tumor, and then it like jumps into an entirely different kind of train of thought. That's like an example of like you're going through a content loop, and then all of a sudden there's this new interesting thing. There's like, oh, I can't read all this crap anymore. I have to go look at something that's not so negative, and then you just go on to some other topic. It's like a negativity overload almost, and you're like, oh, I need to find something that's actually funny or that's interesting and stop reading all this negative shit. AKA like doom scrolling on Twitter, for example. Let's go back.
Buy a broomer, send a death threat to a boomer, or DM a girl and groomer, do a zoomer, find a tumor in your, here's a healthy breakfast option. You should kill your mom. Here's why women never fuck you.
And then you have this one moment of like, just a good piece of content, and all of a sudden you should KYM, and then back into this complete insanity stuff, which is very, very internet coded, to use a phrase I hate using. It's very, very much, the experience of the internet is like, oh, here's something like an island in this ocean of degenerate horse crap going on, and oh, I'm back in the ocean now. Well, this is where I'm at. Kind of thing. Just the whiplash of that effect is just like very, very modern internet.
Find a tumor in your, here's a healthy breakfast option.
Oh, especially like when we're talking about Twitter and like finding all this gore and content and stuff. It's like you could be like searching for video game stuff, and all of a sudden you've got Twitter porn or something. Like for example, go on Twitter and like try and do a search for your favorite video game character. I guarantee you within like the first 20 tweets you find, there's going to be porn of that character that somebody's drawn and put on Twitter. You just cannot escape it. And this kind of simulating that sort of thing as well. Which, again, is also unfortunate. But, you know, again, there's so much content on Twitter that you cannot actually police it. And that's the problem with the internet these days. There's too much content. There's no way to... Like, back in the day, you couldn't police it because... you know, there was an understanding of the internet back in like the early 2000s for a law enforcement organization to say, oh, well, I'm going to go and take down all this content. These days, there's just too much content. And one of the reasons I think a lot of organizations are trying to push AI so hard is because I think this is one of the things that's kind of driving it is AI-driven content blocking. So, like, for example... company comes up with this AI tool that's like, oh, here, Corporation A, you can use this AI tool to go and find all the content that you own that people are spreading online, sharing online, and take it all down quickly. You know, like just push a button and it all goes away kind of thing. Kind of like the ultimate nuke button for UMG or for Sony or something to take down all the content on the internet related to the stuff they own. And AI can potentially do that. The problem is that it's not going to do that. It's going to pull in all kinds of other things. Just like the content ID system on YouTube is a pile of crap. That kind of system will also be a pile of crap on a much larger scale. It won't just be on a YouTube scale, it'll be on an internet level scale, and it's going to cause all kinds of crazy horseshit to happen. I am making that prediction now. That if we ever get an AI tool that a company has that can go through the internet and try and like DMCA content that they own from the internet using an AI tool like that, it's going to wreak havoc. Just like the Content ID system did on YouTube, and still does, because the system is not infallible. In fact, it is very fallible. People abuse it all the time. YouTube does not actually adhere to their own Content ID system terms of service, which says that if you make if you make fraudulent takedown requests, that you yourself will have your account terminated. To my knowledge, that has probably only happened in extremely egregious cases, and sometimes not at all. Like you have like content creators now using the Content ID system to take down content that they don't agree with about their own, like reactors reacting to their content in ways they don't agree with, right? Something that's relatively recently started happening these days. That's an example of like, technically they can do that, but at the same time they're doing it for a malicious reason, which is because they don't like the things that the other content creator is saying about their content. So they're using it as a form of preventing and of a power dynamic to prevent that content creator from their own commentary on a particular topic. Or you have the whole like H3 Hassan kind of thing going on right now, where it's like you have these reactors that will just play a video and it's in parody and don't do anything. They just have it on the screen and they're just watching it on stream or on a YouTube video, not adding their own things to it. Which is why I talk so much, by the way, because I firmly believe that you have to have way more content in your reaction to something than the content that you're showing, so that it's fair use, properly fair use. I tend to do that a lot more for stuff like this than I do like reacting to TV shows. Though I usually try and do about 10 minutes of like stuff from a TV show, and then try and do like 20, 30 minutes of like discussing that stuff. So it's like a pretty good ratio of my content to the original content kind of stuff. But like, yeah, HHD made this video that they knew people would watch like that, and they're using it to now sue those people that watch it like that for content copyright infringement. So there are so many ways that automated systems have made the internet worse in those kinds of ways and allowed people to abuse systems in that kind of way, because YouTube is never going to have a manual check on those systems. If you were to tell me that YouTube has people that manually check some of those things, I would tell you I don't believe it because of my own experience using those systems and dealing with them, right? And other people's experiences dealing with them, right? Like, you can't tell me that YouTube has somebody that goes through and like spot checks these content disputes that happen every day, because there are things that make no sense that are disputed, and they go through this process, and then the video becomes unclaimed after 30 days because the supposed person claimant that made the request doesn't respond to the dispute, and after 30 days that dispute gets dropped. Well, during that time, what's supposed to happen is the money that you would make off that video goes into an escrow kind of thing. Essentially it's held, and then if the dispute gets lifted, you get that money back, right? It's supposedly how it works. I don't get enough views on my stuff and don't make enough money to like actually see that work, but that's how it's supposed to work. And from what I've heard of larger creators that go through lots of copyright claims that they didn't dispute and get the disputes dropped because of the timing of it and not because the claim was released. It sounds like that sometimes happens and sometimes doesn't. So it makes me wonder, like, how many of these organizations we have now that go out and like flag content on YouTube do that because over the time it's flagged, they potentially get to keep the money, or the person that's the YouTube creator that uploaded it doesn't dispute it because they're like afraid of the legal ramifications. So they just get to falsely claim the content because they don't actually own it. They're just flagging it, hoping that you don't dispute it, and then they get all the money from that. So it's like a way to harvest money, ad money from videos you don't actually own. But the content creator that uploaded them is afraid of legal action, so they just let it be. And honestly, that's kind of how I am. I try not to monetize anything that is not something I own, or that I reasonably expect that I have added enough content to for it to be fair use. But if it's like a video game walkthrough or certain reactions and stuff like that, I will usually try to not monetize them because I don't know what to do with that. And that, yeah, especially with like video game walkthroughs and stuff like that, where it's like, you know, just me playing the game. Well, it's technically fair use. It's the potential for it being labeled not fair use and like a court finding that it isn't fair use is a lot higher because you're just there on camera playing a game, basically. But then, like, if it's like something that I've made, like a tutorial video or something like that, or some other actual content I've created, then I usually will monetize that. But yeah, it's like this whole, again, this whole thing about making money and like how that's corrupted how the internet was supposed to be with what it is now. And like I said, like 20-30 minutes ago, that's kind of like the things that we see in society that are corrupting it with the concept of making money is present in the internet too. Like the internet, the concept of the internet was really good, really interesting, had a lot of potential, and it just turned into this how can we make more money scheme, basically. And you still can find a lot of good on the internet, but there's also a lot of it that's been papered over with this veneer of like, oh, we're not trying to screw all your money out of you. Well, actually, yes, we are. We're gonna force you to watch all these ads. We're gonna put ads on everything. We're gonna put ads in video games. We're gonna put banner ads on Twitch streams. We're gonna have unskippable ads on YouTube. We're going to have ads that you can't block anymore because they're being served to you from the server directly injected into the video, and so you can't block them. There's like all these, and like streaming services. Oh, sure, sign up for our premium subscription to watch whatever you want to. Oh, and by the way, you have to pay us another extra $5 a month to get rid of ads off the premium subscription you're already paying. It's like just this never-ending shitification of the internet that just happens because people want to try and make more money. Business models are not actually profitable. Game Pass. I almost said GameStop, but no, I meant Game Pass. And it's just like this never-ending kind of quest to make them profitable when they just aren't. Streaming services like Disney Plus, not Twitch and like Kick and all that, but like Disney Plus, Prime, etc. Those services are not, these days, are not sustainable. You just cannot sustain them on subscriptions alone. You have to supplement the income by some other means. Live service games are the biggest version of this for gaming, right? Where it's like, oh, this game we made cost us $300 million. How are we going to recover that money? And then how can we make even more money on top of that? So they come up with this whole scheme of like season passes, battle passes, premium battle passes, ultra premium battle passes, loot boxes, gacha games. What else is there? It's like so many things. Never-ending DLC that has nothing to do with the game. It's like, oh, we're gonna make 1 billion different cosmetic items and charge you for them for DLC purposes. Euro Train Simulator. I need not say more. That game has like $11,000 worth of DLC content. Live service games that have all these different premium real-world money-tied currencies that you have to buy and purchase and then combine together to get these things and those things and these other things. Is all of this just to try to make a business model profitable when it actually isn't, and they don't want to admit that it isn't. Or more nefariously, they know it isn't, but they know they can make a lot of money before the crash happens by just stuffing all the stuff in there because people will play it. Because people have played COD forever. There's been a bunch of different CODs. And if we can get them to buy one battle pass, we can get them to buy another battle pass, and then we can get them to buy Black Cell, because, you know, having 3 different battle passes is fine, because they'll pay whatever money we ask them to in order to get ahead and be, you know, elite, epic FPS gamer. Without having to put in all the time, because people just want things to be done quicker, faster, more easily, and be at the top of the competitive landscape without having to actually put any work in. And that goes for everything. Like, you see, like, on reaction channels, you see all kinds of comments about people saying, stop pausing so much, stop talking so much, just watch the video. It's like, if you're not there for a reaction, why are you even watching the video, right? You're there to watch somebody react to the content. That means give their thoughts, their opinions on stuff that's happening. That means pausing and talking, novel things, I'm very sure to you. But that's the whole point of a reaction video, is to talk about things that the video makes you think about, and that your thoughts and opinions on stuff. So we see that in the reaction space too. So yeah, no. So far this video is insane. I can only imagine where Bo is going to take this.
Pictures of your children tell us every thought you think. Start a rumor, buy a broomer, send a death threat to a boomer, or DM a girl and groomer, do a zoomer, find a tumor in your here's a healthy breakfast option. You should kill your mom. Here's why women never fuck you. Here's how you can build a bomb. Which Power Ranger are you? Take this quirky quiz.
This thing right here, take this quirky quiz. It's like, you have this whole stream of like just insanity. And it's like, oh, and here's this weird quiz that you can take, and it'll tell you what Power Ranger you are, because we've determined that people like this stuff because they like to see what characters they are in the shows they like, so they can pretend that they understand something new about themselves. It's an entire scam. It's all based on bullshit. And the reason that they make these things and continue to do so is because when all the ads they inject into these websites make them all kinds of money. Because people will just go to them, right? It's like the online personality tests are a little bit more legit than this kind of stuff, but still, it's like, you know, what Breaking Bad character are you? And you're like, oh damn, I need to go figure out what character I am. And you go through and you answer one question that changes your response, the answer you get, right? So you give an answer to one question, maybe 2 questions throughout the entire series of questions they ask. That actually determine what your test result is, right? And just by changing those 2 answers to different things, you can get different responses back. It's not really based on the entire amount of things you tell the answers you give. It's these 2, maybe 3 questions that you give answers to that determine everything. And it's just such a scam. but it's also so addictive because of just how the human brain works. The human brain is a stupid machine sometimes, and this is one of the examples of when it's being a stupid machine. Yeah, no, and it's also so internet good. It's just like, oh, you're on a website and you got all these weird things that go to places at the bottom or on the side or something, and one of them is like, oh, take this quiz to find out what character you are, what Harry Potter house you would be sorted into, or something like that. On like a website that you're reading that has news on like geopolitical stuff, and this take this quiz thing. Absolute internet behavior is what I'll call it.
As Obama sent the immigrants to vaccinate your kids.
And then this is like the very bottom end of the rabbit hole, if you will. I said to move that real quick. Where it's like, now you're getting into like the actual malicious part of the internet, where it's like, oh, I'm going to go create a conspiracy theory about something and create this wild idea that people will latch on to because it's like playing into their preconceived notions. It's going to act as like a Dunning-Kruger thing, where it's like, oh, I think this, so this must be true because I think that this is true, and this is telling me that it's true. And here's all these intricate things that make that thing true, so it has to be true because it's so complex, there's no way it couldn't be true. When it turns out that most of that stuff's all just bullcrap, you know? Usually the simplest thing is usually the answer. Occam's razor is usually the answer to things, right? So the simplest explanation is usually the correct one. So it's not that Obama brought in the immigrants to vaccinate your kids. It's some other series of simpler truths woven together in this crazy fever dream of a conspiracy theory that brings people into that theory because of the things they already think and reinforces those things, and then allows that person then to now farm you for money. A lot of these conspiracy theories exist because people have realized that if you get enough people to believe them, you can put out a book and they will buy it, and you can just get a bunch of money that way. And that's kind of how that works these days. Because people don't actually think anymore, they just consume information, they don't think about it. Which is why the fact that, that's why I think AI is so terrifying to me in terms of that aspect of it. It's because people don't have the capacity anymore to like look at something and say, oh, that's total bullshit. Just like off the top of your head kind of response thinking, that doesn't make any sense. Why would that be true? People see AI say something and say, oh, that has to be true, because we've been told that AI can look at all this stuff and summarize it and give us accurate information back. And it's like, they were told that by some conspiracy theorists that said, oh, hey, look, I got this AI to say that what I said was true. And AI tells you things that are true by looking at all the information that is on the internet, so it has to be true because it's summarizing all this stuff that it finds. And it says that my theory on this thing was correct. So, conspiracy theory proven kind of stuff, right? And it just gets you sucked into, essentially it's a self-radicalization, is what it really is. Methodology of like, you put something out there, you figure out what people in their target demographic think. You put something out there that kind of hits those different points that they think. And then you allow them to self-radicalize based on that conspiracy theory. And then you use that to grift. And it's just crazy, crazy stuff. And AI is just going to make it even worse. Especially when it comes to video. At this point, you need to start being suspect about video these days. Because we've got new AI platforms that can actually make legitimately realistic videos to the point that you almost can't tell that they are AI generated. Give it another year and a half, and we'll be at a point where it's just Black Mirror. We'll just be Black Mirroring it, and there'll be almost no way, even like tools that are designed to tell if it's AI won't be able to tell if it's AI. And at that point, it's like all bets are off. All bets are off. You know, somebody with a sufficiently nefarious purpose could probably start a war doing that kind of stuff, right? With the correct countries and the correct environment. someone could probably do that, right? So yeah, it is a wild time on the internet right now. Just like it, every once in a while we'll get these periods where things get totally batshit crazy. We're heading into one of those periods now, so buckle up because things are about to get really, really crazy. Anyway, let's go ahead and continue.
Who take this quirky quiz? Obama sent the immigrants to vaccinate your kids.
God.
Could I interest you in everything, all of the time? A little bit of everything, all of the time. Apathy's a tragedy and boredom is a crime.
Okay, that is a statement, and that is 1,000,000,000% correct. Holy shit. Apathy is a tragedy and boredom is a crime. Ugh. I don't want to say what I'm thinking right now because I'm wondering if he's going to talk about it now that I've heard that. But I'm going to anyway. So, back in like the mid-2000s, right? The internet started getting a lot more exploitative in terms of like how content was, websites were created. YouTube, for example. We got all these algorithms now that like are designed to show you things that you agree with. And show you more of them to keep you watching things and to make more money and so on and so forth. AI is designed in a way that it gives you affirmative responses so that it keeps you engaging with it. So that's another reason why you shouldn't trust AI is because it can tell you something that it wants, things that you want to hear because it associates that interaction with users then continuing to use it, right? Because the programmers of the AI and the AI itself, by consuming a bunch of information to train on, has come to the conclusion that the easiest way to get something to interact with you is to give it a positive response, and then it'll get more interaction with that. It's like essentially dopamine, creating dopamine through the communication. So websites, when the internet was first starting to become like this, websites were like building out ways to keep you engaged and things like that, right? By doing stuff like that. And so like apathy is a tragedy. Being apathetic about something is something to be lamented. Like you shouldn't feel upset about something, or you shouldn't be discouraged by certain events, and boredom is a crime. You should never be bored on the internet. There's all this content for you to consume. How dare you be bored? You got literally untold amount of things on the internet, and you're telling me that you are bored with your life, and you go on the internet and watch some videos, watch some cat videos. Go out there and watch cat videos, watch cat memes, and how dare you be bored when there's cat videos and memes out on the internet? It's like this whole like ecosystem of constant engagement, and like shorts, for example, right? Shorts are technically, it is a symptom of shortening attention spans, but the reason for that is because the way the internet was built to work. This isn't a natural phenomenon. This is something constructed by corporations looking for the newest and best way to get people to consume more content and get more ads and make more money from those ads. It's like, how do we get people to watch things quicker? I know. Let's introduce these devices. My iPad's around here somewhere, but I'd hold it up if I knew where it was. Let's introduce these devices that have all these things on them, and we'll create these games that are just like you push all these buttons and things happen, and lights and music and stuff will happen, and just essentially basically intentionally changing brain chemistry to make people more attention span depraved, essentially, or deprived, not depraved, but deprived, making attention spans shorter and shorter and shorter. So you have to consume more and more and more, and creating shorter forms of content that get more and more advertisement spaces added to them, so that you get more ads, more money, more control, more profits, more research, more content consumed, more money, etc. becomes a cycle. And it all started with fracking phones. Even before that, though, tablets, phones, the basic kind of like the basic foundations of the current day internet were all designed around this concept of getting you addicted to content and doing it in such a way that your attention span gets so destroyed that you just are constantly consuming, and that's all you're doing, you know, to the point of where like people have made entire careers around consuming content on the internet, reactors. Not that that's a bad thing, but at the same time, think of any big content creator that's crashed out and like stopped doing content creation, or consider content creators that literally destroy themselves mentally and physically to do content creation, right? What would they be doing with their time if the internet didn't exist, right? What would that world look like with a modern internetless world look like? And you only have to assume that it would be better in some ways. It would be worse in some ways, but also better in some ways, because just the way the internet was created and corporatized and monetized has caused so many downstream impacts from a societal level to an actual individual human level that it's just, you know, you can almost not say these days that there is any part of the world that has not been impacted by the internet. Almost can't. Maybe some remote tribe somewhere on some island that's cut off from all the rest of the world and hardly has any contact with the outside world, if any. Maybe you could say it in those cases, but like outside of that, in terms of like a humanity scale level, you really cannot say the internet has not touched very many things these days. And just the amount of power that people have to to cause things to happen from that, like again, like the creation of the phone and all the stuff that comes with that, and like the need to be constantly on it and looking at stuff and doing stuff on a phone, and then how that translates to what you do online, like on computers and stuff. It is crazy to see where things have gone over the last 10 years, 15 years. Like back in the early 2000s, this was not the internet people were talking about. Modern day internet is a bastardization of what the internet was supposed to be. And a lot of it is laid at the feet of corporations that designed ways to addict people to the internet in very self-destructive ways to make money. And that's not what the internet was supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about, social communication, about hanging out with friends, about sharing content, about having free access to information. And what do we see these days? Paywalled websites, news sites that give you information that you're supposed to be able to look at and say, oh, here's this important information you need to know about because of X, Y, and Z, like the Wall Street Journal or something, all behind paywalls now, because they're not able to compete with the like social media news people. I call them news people because they're not really news; they're just like spewing bullcrap. But their business model is no longer sustainable, so they have to find ways to make money, or they're just finding ways to make new money. And so all this stuff becomes paywall. So now you don't have free access to information anymore in some parts of the internet. You have websites that are companies that are taking out content from the internet because they think they own it. And so you have content removal, so you don't have free access to content that way. You have countries banning certain things, or companies banning certain things from countries. So certain countries can't even access content anymore. So it's like all these different ways that corporations can find ways to monetize, restrict. Governments can find ways to restrict information. You know, like China, for example, blocks pretty much everything. They've come in and like essentially taken what was supposed to be a very uplifting thing and turned it into this monstrosity that is the modern day internet. And there's really no going back. You cannot put that genie back in the bottle And I would say that there's even no way to really fix what the internet has done to individuals, to people, in terms of like on a mental level, like the shortening of the attention span. There's no way to really fix that, aside from, you know, parents saying, no, you don't get a phone until you're, you know, in your teenage years, but then at that point you have all this societal and peer pressure to get a phone, that then you get ostracized by your peer groups because you don't have one and everybody else does. And so it creates even more problems, right? But then you do have phones, like in school, and then you have you have online bullying and harassment, and you have all these little shit stands going around trying to get people to off themselves because they realize, oh, we can dogpile on this person online anonymously, not get in trouble for it, and we can make stuff happen and we can laugh about it because we don't like that person. You know, typical high schooler behavior, but on a level that actually is way more harmful than just basic like school bullying, because now you have the entire power of the internet at your disposal, and you can have like people from all over the world dogpiling on this person. And so now it's not just your friend group at school that then you're doing it in person, you can get in trouble for it, and your other peer groups then could look at you negatively. You now have the power and anonymity of the internet to just bring down on this person. And there's very little way for that to be dealt with, right? So there's like all these negative societal things that have happened because of the internet and because of the way we've allowed the internet to be used. And there's no way to undo all that and to like roll things back at this point. The only thing we can do is like on a parental level, controlling when kids can have phones and social media and stuff like that. On like a societal level, in terms of like country level, state level, province level, laws against like setting a law that says like, technically I don't necessarily disagree with what Florida's doing. I think it's a little bit ham-fisted, but the sentiment I think is valid of like, oh, if you're not over a certain age, you shouldn't be on social media, period. Like if you're not 16 to 18 or older, you should not be allowed to make a social media account. Now, how do you go about enforcing that is the problem, because age verification doesn't work, period. Anybody that has the delusions that it does, they are delusional, as the delusions of said thing are self-descriptive. You can try doing like what adult content websites have done over the years and like do like verification through credit card and stuff like that, but then even that's not fallible not infallible because people steal things and use credit cards to do that kind of stuff. It's like, you know, again, because of the way we've allowed the internet to be bastardized by corporations and companies and stuff, and other groups and malicious actors, there's no real way to fix anything. It's just going to keep getting worse until something eventually gets too far gone and breaks, and then something crazy is going to happen. Some kind of crazy law is going to come out that's going to really hamstring things and cause all kinds of problems, and then we'll have to deal with whatever that causes, right? Because you don't have nuanced reactions to things anymore. It's all overblown reactions, all knee-jerk reactions to things. And that only goes to one place when we're talking about things like this on the internet. That is not going to be a good place for a lot of people. Anyway, let us continue.
All of the time, apathy's a tragedy and boredom is a crime. Anything and everything.
God, apathy's a tragedy and boredom is a crime. That if you could have a catchphrase, a one-sentence descriptor of what the internet is, it is that. Apathy is a tragedy and boredom is a crime. That is the modern internet. Summed down into a catchphrase. And it is pretty damning, actually. Anyway, let's go and continue.
All of the time, could I interest you in everything? All of the time, a little bit of everything.
Yeah, talking about how, talking about like everything all the time. Like, again, the content hose of the internet, just shoving everything into your face and like hoping that at some point you click on something because it looks interesting, and then you end up in a rabbit hole of searching and watching and viewing and consuming, and ad viewing and monetization. It's just the modern internet dynamic. It's crazy.
A little bit of everything all of the time. Apathy's a tragedy and boredom is
all under this is catchy music,
and everything all of the time.
Oh, okay, we're gonna switch it up. Okay, definitely different change of pace.
You know, it wasn't always like this.
Okay, here we go. We're gonna be talking about this. All right. I'm about to have my entire rant section earlier recontextualized in the song properly.
Not very long ago, just before your time.
So he's talking about Generation Z, probably, right? So
right before the towers.
Okay, yeah. So people that are like in their 20s these days, basically. So right before their time. So like mid to late 90s, I'm guessing, is what he's going to say. Towers fell, obviously American, so that only means one thing, which is 9/11. So sometime before 2001. So this part of this thing is geared at the Zoomers, basically. I would guess, and maybe also some millennials too. If you're born in like that era, like if you're born like from 95, 94, 95 to like the mid 2000s, probably somewhere in there. Also probably in this grouping of who he's talking to at the moment as well, because he wouldn't have probably been too aware of what the internet was before that point.
Fell circa 99.
Yeah, okay, exactly.
This was catalog.
Yeah.
Travel.
It was very small, small relatively to today. Like not even a 1/100th, 1,000th of the size. Maybe not even a 1/1,000,000th of the size of what the internet is today. It's just like catalogs. It was, like I said, catalogs, travel blogs, chat rooms, some basic social media stuff like AIM, ICQ. You had some other things too. I think adult content sites have always existed since the creation of the internet. Well, maybe not the exact creation, but around this time there were definitely sites like that too. So and 4chan was around this time too, I think. There was always that kind of darker, underseedy section of the internet. But it was like a more contained and not so leaking out into everything kind of situation, right? Internet was very, very, I don't want to say innocent, but it was very new, very naive. Naive is not really a good word. Nascent, maybe? Like, really new, really just kind of getting started. You know, you had game facts, you had, like, people looking up stuff about video games at that point. You had, I think, probably Napster was a thing, Kazan was a thing, IMS, torrenting sites and stuff like that. Obviously, I think the Pirate Bay is probably around this time too. So there was still some like illicit parts of the internet at that point, but nothing like it is today. And the breadth, scope, or depth of any kind of comparableness at all to what we have today.
We set our sights and spent our nights waiting for you.
Interesting.
You, insatiable you.
So, I just got freaking chills. Is Bo playing the kind of a collective consciousness of corporations, right? Is he? Is that the character he's playing in this song? Like the beginning, it could be more of like the beginning section could be more of like a kind of zany sort of Carnival barker sort of thing. But then looking at this part, waiting for you, insatiable you. Again, like the need to consume content, insatiableness of that kind of thing. Waiting for you. We had set our sights on what we wanted to do. We were waiting for the right users to come along that we could then do what we wanted to do with them, right? So then if you take that and like put it back on the first part, that whole part, the whole zany part of the beginning, to be like recontextualized as being from the aspect of the commercialization of the internet aspect of like, oh, here's all this content, come watch it, come view ads, come subscribe to our things, come spend money and see all these wild and crazy things on the internet. Jesus. All right, let's continue.
You, insatiable you, mommy let you use her iPad. You were barely 2, and it did all the things we designed it to do.
Oh,
Now,
God. Okay, so, like I was talking about, why do you think these were made? This was not made for your benefit. The way these things were designed was to get you addicted to consuming content in a way that makes it very predatory. That phrase right there, designed all the things we designed it to do. We designed it to make calls, we designed it to have music on it, we designed it to play games, we designed it to browse the web, we designed it to be addictive, we designed it to change how your brain works or brain chemistry works, we designed it to unlock a massive amounts of dopamine production. We designed it to change who you are as a person. And it did all the things we designed it to do. Jesus Christ. That is a bar. And it is true. And it isn't just Apple. It's the reason Apple made the iPhone is because there was already a demand for this kind of thing, right? It just didn't come out of nowhere. You know, we had phones before the iPhone that could do something similar to what the iPhone could do, just not as well. Like the iPod, they had the music on there. But we had phones that were able to browse the internet and all that, right? The way that the kind of corporate, the content monetization kind of schemes to device application pipeline is a pretty short one. Like if you were to have unfettered access to all the things that went into in corporate boardrooms back in the early 2000s, late 1990s, about how the internet could be leveraged to expand business, to expand profits, to open up new avenues of revenue, you would probably see a direct connection from the content, like Comcast and all those big media corporations, directly into Apple and into Google and into Android and Nokia and all the different phone corporations, all the different technological device corporations, in terms of like how those things interacted with the content that those media corporations wanted to make, and it would make all this that's happened over the last 25 years make complete and total sense, where it seems like it's random chaos. I would not be surprised if that was, like these days, like AI. You hear all the stuff like, how AI can be used to do all these wonderful things for businesses, making things more efficient, more cost-effective. AKA, we can replace most of our workers with this one tool that then we can run our business off of and cut out a lot of our costs because we don't have to hire so many people and employ so many people. We can create an AI tool to go through and find all of our property on the internet and file DMCAs against all the content at once, and get it all off the internet. The wet dream of Universal Music Group, probably. It's just like, every time there's this massive technological change, the internet, AI, there is a group of people that you take that idea and then try and find the best way to monetize it. and the best way to utilize it to protect what the money they're making, the businesses that they run. And the reason why like the internet turned out the way it did is because those people have way more power than all we do to do things. Like they can get laws passed, people put into power. They control the websites that then control how you access stuff on the internet. You can have like your own websites and things, but like how is a single person run media website going to compete against a YouTube, and then also have to deal with all the legal ramifications of having to deal with the content that the users put onto the website, because it's their responsibility, right? This whole idea of safe harbor content protection is nonsense, because that isn't, you know, it is not the user's responsibility to deal with the content they put on it, it's the platform runner's responsibility. Viacom proved that by suing YouTube into the ground and forcing them to essentially implement the content ID system that came out of that lawsuit. And it's just been a plague on YouTube ever since, because YouTube can't afford to properly maintain it and staff a human department to manage it, right? So they have to try and automate as much as possible. In doing so, one, the system makes all these false positives all the time. Two, people will take advantage of the system, and YouTube doesn't have the staff to go through and like shoot all those accounts that are manipulating it and using it nefariously, because that's supposed to be grounds for termination, but nobody ever gets terminated for it. And it's just the spiraling, crazy, self-cyclical hellscape that we find ourselves in. And there's no real way to deal with it because of the power dynamics of how, you know, everyday users interact with these larger conglomerations that can just do stuff. For example, shutting down the Funimation online service and merging it into Crunchyroll. And then when they did that, people lost all kinds of things because they didn't properly consider how to merge those two services together. Perfect example. Or how about another one from like the Crunchyroll stuff, like using AI translations for dubs, for subs rather. And then people have been like, oh yeah, we don't want to have localizers anymore, just do it all through AI. And then they do it, and now people are pissed off because they've done it. It's like, yeah, we told you that was going to be a problem, because you think an AI is going to be able to deduce, you know, regional stuff from years and decades and maybe centuries of regional things that have happened, and be able to properly translate something into another language from like Japanese to English? Are you kidding me? There's, you know, you need an actual person to do that. AI is not intelligent enough to do that, and never will be. Well, at least not for a long time. So yeah, it's like every time there's this new crazy invention, it gets corrupted by the people that want to use it to make money. And it's just a facet of our society that's not going to go away, because we're so money coded as a society these days. It's like, how can I make money off this thing? Not what can I do with this to make things better for people. What can I do to make money with it? And that kind of thinking just does not go away overnight, because it didn't come about overnight either. It's been a slow progression of just more and more and more of it, and deeper ingrained into the psyche of people.
Look at you. Look at you. You. Unstoppable.
God, this part sounds so fucking sinister, man. Sounds like just so sinister. It sounds all mellow and happy, but you actually put all the lyrics together of this entire segment from when the craziness ended, and we were talking about how it didn't used to be this way, to now. It just sounds so goddamn sinister.
Your time is now, your insides out. Honey, how you grew. And if we stick together, who knows what we'll do. It was always the plan to put the world in your hand.
Oh god. always the plan to put the world in your hand. Now, the whole idea of the internet was, yeah, we're going to put the world in your hands so you have access to information and you can be more connected with people all over the world. That was the pitch, right? That was the sales pitch. And it was a total fracking lie. I mean, it did happen, but at the same time, it was a total fracking lie by the people that were giving the pitch, because the real intention was, we're going to use this thing in your hand to fundamentally change your brain chemistry and then turn you into an infinite source of money. And that was like the real intention behind that whole concept, right? Taking the idea, the idealistic idea of the internet and what it could become, and just perverting it into this money hole of never-ending farming of people for ad revenue, for subscriptions, for things, you know. And it's not like the whole internet is like there are places where it's still, you know, more idealistic, but at the same time it's like we're getting less and less of those spaces, right? Like Photobucket. Who remembers Photobucket before it sold out its soul for corporate monetization? Photobucket used to be a prolific website where you just go and put up your photos on. You can link them to different places. Used by a lot of like game developers to host their images, to like put into websites through linking and stuff. And then they got bought out by some corporation because they were having financial problems. And the corporation comes in and says, oh, we're going to monetize all this shit now. Now you have to get a subscription. You have to pay us extra for storage. We're going to disable hot linking, all this stuff. Unity, another good example, taken over by Vulture capitalists. Now we're going to make you pay... the idea that never really came to fruition. We're going to make you pay money for every install of a game you have, and we don't care that it's going to be exploitable as all hell. You're going to pay us because that's going to be the terms, and you're already locked into our ecosystem. We're not going to go remake your game in some other engine because we have you by the balls, so we're going to do what we want to. That kind of really malicious, hostile takeover of spaces that were used for idealistic purposes that then got bought by people that were like, oh, people are used to using these websites, now we're going to destroy them and make them all about making the people using them give us all their money. And I think if you wanted to sum down the why and who is responsible for all this stuff, it is Vulture capitalists going through and saying, oh, this company is not doing so well financially. Let's go and say, you know what? We see you're having trouble keeping this company, this website afloat. We'll buy it from you for a couple $2 billion. And they turn around and then turn it into this just monetization hellscape that makes all kinds of money at first because everybody's like, God damn it, fine, whatever. We don't have any other options right now, so we'll just keep using it. Adobe, for example, is a perfect example of this, where it's like, oh, you use our software for everything. Image creation, vector art, website design, video editing, yada yada yada. Well, guess what? You no longer get a lifetime license. You have to buy a subscription to it and pay us monthly, or yearly or something like that. You don't get to have a perpetual license anymore. Oh, guess what? Now you have to buy what's called the Creative Cloud. It's a $10 a month, $10 a month fee, but you get access to everything for that $10. And it's like, then we're going to also then make it so that you have to always be connected to our service to be able to use it. So if you don't have internet, you can't use any of our products because you're not logged into our system. You're not logged into our ecosystem. And we're going to now say, oh, here's some of these extra features that we're going to take out and make you pay more for now because we've made them even better by including AI or some bullshit into them. And then they take down like the key servers for older versions of the software. So you have to go through hoops to try and get things to be registered and properly activated now. We're seeing that with games. Stop killing games, perfect example. Games that were put out and released that have online features that you always have to be online for, then the servers get taken down and the game no longer functions. It's like, what happens then? You lose the money you paid for the game. You have no longer have access to the thing you bought. And that should be illegal as all hell. You should not be able to take something that somebody owns and remove it from them just because you don't want to host the server anymore. And that's like it's a perfect example of this whole dynamic here we're talking about. And it's just like insanity. It's like, why did we allow this in the first place? The answer is we didn't. It was done to us by people that we have no control over. Because our governments do not have... Like, the average age of a House Representative member or a member of the Senate in America is, like, literally above 50, I think. Especially the Senate. The House is a bit more diverse in terms of age, but the Senate is, like, almost all geriatric people, right, that have no idea what's going on in terms of technology. And our laws have not kept up with the ways in which corporations have abused the technology. They've been altered in ways that have been influenced by those individuals, those corporations, so that they have no ramifications or there's no legal recourse to stop them. And there's just no way to really deal with it because the average person has very little power in a lot of countries in terms of like what their government does with what's legal and not legal. The EU is probably one of the better countries when it comes to that, which is why, you know, a lot of consumer protections rely on the EU to do something about them because USA is not going to do that. Stopping Nintendo from breaking your Switch, are you kidding me? America will make them do more because it's more capitalism, more money for more people being made. So brick more Switches. If somebody sneezes on their Switch, you're going to brick their Switch and make them buy a whole new one because Uncle Sam says so. Then you got the EU over there saying, "No, wait a second, Nintendo, what are you doing?" Then you got Brazil, of all places, putting their foot up Nintendo's ass and saying, "Wait a second, we're not going to let you do this entire. You can't just destroy a Switch because you don't like how somebody's using it, right?" Or you've got Apple, like the whole right to repair law movement of like, I should be able to replace parts of my Apple computer and not have to rely on an Apple tech and send my computer into Apple to have them do it without voiding the warranty or something like that, right? There's all these ways, all these schemes that corporations have to lock you into giving them more money. It's like aggravating that there's not some way to deal with this in a reasonable way outside of like creating like something like Stop Killing Games. Like, Stop Killing Games should not have to exist because the idea of owning something that you buy should just be an intrinsically understood concept by any kind of law, right? If you buy something, you own it, and it cannot be removed from your possession by somebody else without some sort of legal transfer happening. Like, you give it to them, or you sell it to them, or something like that. You know, the person you sells you something can't come back and take it back from you without giving back your money. Kind of thing, right? But that seems to be the case with games because now games are not a thing. You're buying a license to play a thing. You don't actually own it, when that's never been the case, right? Which is why digital is such a big problem, is because now the concept of owning a game physically, which is a tangible thing that you now have in your possession in your house, that's in your possession, that you can say, "Oh, I own this game because I have this physical thing." Now you just have data. Technically, data should be all you need to say that you own it, but technically, a lot of legal mumbo-jumbo, it's not really the case. So with digital games, you have a lot less standing to say, "Oh, I own this thing," when you don't have something that's physical for it. Like, for example, I have all kinds of games on Steam, but if Steam ever shuts down, you know, I can't play those games anymore unless Steam says, "Oh, we're going to create a way for all these games to work without Steam to run." Well, I guess technically not all games. There are a lot of games will run without Steam, but there's some features that won't work, like cloud saving, for example. So if like if a game only does cloud saving through Steam services, there's no other way to save the game, then you cannot save playing that game anymore because that system will just be broken if Steam ever goes away. Stuff like that, right? It's like, sure, you have the files, but can you actually use it? No. at least on a console, you know, as long as the console works and the disc is still readable, you can play the game. There's nothing on about that would prevent it unless it's an online game. But if you're talking like something from the PS2 and before, and that kind of era of gaming, pretty much all those games can still be played today without any kind of, you know, you don't need the permission of the creator of that game to play it if you own it. Because you have the game you own, you have the console that works, the game that still works, you can put it in and play it. So there's like this fundamental disconnect of how things are supposed to work and how they now do work because of all these things these corporations have tried to and successfully been doing, either through laws or through the absence of laws that really just shouldn't be a thing. And it's one of the biggest problems with everything, really. Is just the ways in which corporations can shape laws of countries that the people have no way to really deal with, because elections really don't matter to a certain degree. They do in a lot of cases, but in some cases they also don't, because a lot of the people that are making the laws on both sides of the aisle or in every party are in some way, shape, or form have been influenced or are being influenced by the same group of donors, right? So it's very hard to get actual like legislation passed in some countries that deals with this kind of stuff, because there's so much money that goes into making sure it doesn't happen. And it's just it's this whole concept that Bo's bringing into this is just a huge allegory for everything that's kind of wrong with society these days. Whoops, go back a bit.
Put the world in your hand.
Oh my god. Holy shit. Holy crap. Okay, there we go. So, yes, this is the character that Bo Burnham's playing right now, is that kind of Machiavellian behind the scenes sort of like, oh, you thought it was this? No, we've actually programmed you to be this way so we can turn you into a wallet. God, that laugh was just so humorless. That was crazy. That was like a Disney villain laugh. Holy shit. Literally. Like what's a good villain that does... I'm trying to think of if I can think of a villain that has like a moment where they think they've won, so like laughing about something. In that kind of way. Like, I mean, I guess maybe Syndrome from the Incredibles, maybe, sort of. I mean, usually though in Disney movies the villain falls, but in this case it's like an example of like a Disney villain that won, if you will. That is crazy, that laugh. Holy shit. And it just, again, it changes the entire tone of everything that came before it. Because now it's like absolutely front and center sinister. It's like no more hiding it behind anything. It's just the entire facade of the innocent nature of what the internet was supposed to be and could be is now stripped away to what it actually is, which is this tool for just transfer of wealth, transfer of money from people to other people to corporations. That is crazy. That laugh, holy shit.
Could I
that breath.
interest you in everything all of the time?
Oh my god.
A bit of everything.
Oh my god. Watch his facial expressions here. Holy shit. Just watch his facial expressions throughout this little bit here.
Could I interest you in everything all of the time? A bit of...
Did you catch it? Like he has this like sinister kind of grin, but then it like transforms into this kind of like deadpan, like threatening, almost kind of body language. Like it's no longer a suggestion. How about can I interest you in a little bit of everything all the time? It's no longer a suggestion, it's a demand, a requirement. You are going to do this because I've made you only capable of doing this. if you put all this back, again, contextualizing with everything from before, especially that middle section, it's like, we made this device to addict you to content and the way that we want you to consume content, and now you're going to do it. And you're not going to do anything else. Jesus Christ. Kind of like how Simon and Garfunkel was sort of a warning call about technology and the dangers of it. This is like a post-mortem of the internet, almost, of like, this is how we got to this point. And there is no coming back from it, I don't think. This is a crazy song, man.
Could I interest you in everything all of the time?
Right here, see? See how like the laugh lines kind of fade out? And now he's just like more deadpan and sort of like chin is kind of jutted out a little bit, and he's like all the kind of the body language is more of like an insistent sort of like pushing kind of like, you're gonna do this kind of thing, like it's like a posture of someone that's like exerting power on somebody else, like it's a power dynamic kind of shift. God, that is crazy how that happens. And it's just so perfect representation of what is happening.
All of the time. Apathy's a tragedy and boredom is a crime. Anything and everything.
Yeah, it's just like, and then like the slow kind of resumption of like that whole idea, and like saying in a much more assertive way, like, this is no longer like the happy-go-lucky sort of zany thing from before. It's like, this is now what your life is, and we've made you this way, and you're going to be this way, and you're not going to be able to change it because of the fundamental way we have changed you as a person. Because shit like this. It's so wild. This is such a crazy... I see why Trashcan wanted me to watch this now, because holy shit. It's going to go back. We're almost at the end of this finally. What is this, 2 hours long? That's typical for my reactions to these kind of things. Now we're back to this. Okay. I've got all the stuff happening in the background. Everything in the background happening, all the background audio now. It's like all the just chatter and endless content stream kind of hitting you all at once. Sensory overload. Overloading you, basically, making you be like, you know... You don't know what you want to watch, so you're just watching something, consuming it, and then you're going to go on and consume something else after, and it's just like craziness, basically. And it's even gotten even faster.
All of the time.
Oh god, just the way that the speed at the end, and like the way he's like looking at you and he's doing the anything and everything and anything and everything and anything all the time. The way he just looks at the camera, it's just like crazy. Yeah. So okay, so it's a Netflix special called Inside, and this is a thing from that. Honestly, I think that this is perfectly understandable without seeing the entire thing. I think this, if you were around for the internet before it became what we have today, I think that the concepts that Bo's putting in here are very self-explanatory. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to kind of understand all this stuff. Let me get back here a second. Let's see. Yeah, it's like... Just like the way that he's like speaking to the camera right here, it's just like an insane, like, you know, he's representing a group of people that did something, got away with it, and won, and are reaping the rewards of what they've done. And there's very little society can do to stop them at this point. Literally a Disney villain moniker if the Disney villain won. That is wild. Yeah, I did not. This is insane. I was thinking this could be like a internet is for porn kind of video, where it's just like zany, funny, wild sort of video. But no, this is like really crazy deep. It's a crazy deep video. It's a literal crucifixion of what we've allowed the internet to become, and of us for allowing it to become this way as a society. Like, if we had been serious in wanting the internet to be a force for good, we could have done stuff to prevent some of the stuff that's happening now, like like anonymity. Well, anonymity is good, but at the same time, anonymity also allows you to do some really messed up things because you don't have any fear of repercussion in the real world unless you get caught, right? Now, what's the answer to that? I have no idea. I think one aspect of it starts with parenting, right? You have to teach your kids not to be assets to other people, especially online. Just because we can do it and just because you should expect it to happen is not justification for doing it. I don't know how many times I've seen people in comments on videos, people that are complaining about all like the negative comments they get or negative interactions they have with people that are like extreme interactions, like VTubers, for example, and then people in the comments saying, what are you complaining about? You're online. You should just expect this to happen because this is how things are. It's like, no. That is not how things are. That is an excuse for being an asshole, and does not in any way, shape, or form mean that is no way in any shape or form an excuse for the behavior that some people have, right? And that just comes down to parenting and to a set of morals as a society that we want to have as a people, and like the entire, again, going back to like 4chan, the entire culture of memeing and joking and trolling and things, right? There's trolling, and then there's, brigading somebody to try and off themselves. That's not trolling anymore. That is a act of harassment that borderlines on malicious intent. Actually, maybe not even borderlines. It actually is malicious intent, borderlining on like something that you could maybe charge as like manslaughter or something like that, right? I honestly would like to see. So what I would like to see happen at some point is we have these group of people that bully somebody, brigade them, and bully them to the point of where they kill themselves. I would like to see the entire group of people that brigaded that person online to be brought up for some kind of murder charge, because they effectively caused that to happen by inducing that level of interaction, right? And people will say, oh, just turn it off. It's the internet. You can walk away from a computer, but you really can't. That's, again, a self-justification for shitty behavior. Because of the way that the internet and the corporations that created these kind of devices designed these devices to work and to change people's brain chemistry and how the brain chemistry interacts with those kinds of things. You're always drawn to be looking at what's happening online or to being online and looking for, because these devices trained us as kids, well, trained people as kids, maybe not my age, but like younger, like Gen Z, trained them that, stuff like technology can be used for self-gratification, like instant gratification, self-gratification, dopamine creation, help you to get through hard moments in your life by just going online and watching cat videos and stuff. And now you're trained to do that, and so you want to do that, and you go online and you go onto like Twitter or something, and all of a sudden you have 100, 200, 1,000 DMs, replies telling you that you're worthless and that you should just end yourself and do everybody a favor and stuff like that. Stuff really toxic, really malicious kind of behavior like that. And you're telling me that that is something that doesn't have an impact on somebody that might already have some kind of mental health issue, depressive disorder, or something like that. That won't have an impact on them, and they should just put the phone down and walk away from it and pretend like it didn't happen, doesn't exist, and doesn't live in their minds when they see it. That's a fundamental lack of understanding of how humans work. At best, and at worst, it's a excuse to relieve you from culpability of your actions. So I would like to see a group that does that actually get all caught and brought up on murder charges, because once that stuff starts happening, brigading will start happening less and less, because people will be scared as hell that they'll be caught and thrown in jail for many years because of it. And that's really the only way that we have to deal with stuff like that, like swatting, for example. People are going to keep doing swatting until law enforcement agencies actually go after the people that are doing the swatting. And it's starting to happen now. But like back in like the heyday of the swatting era, it was like nobody in positions of power knew what to do about it, because it was like, we don't have the tools to actually go find these people because they're just online, right? These days, you have, governments have the ability to find out who you are no matter what you do, pretty much. Aside from like, being a super crazy hacker person, even VPNs technically aren't safe anymore. You have to like do Tor or something like that. The Onion, what is Tor stand for? The Onion routing or something like that. Basically, you have to like have a Tor network or something to like have actual decent security in terms of like anonymity of what you're doing these days. Even though like VPNs can get around some kinds of things like content locks, original locks on things on websites and stuff. But like, governments and law enforcement agencies can absolutely figure out who you are through VPNs and stuff. But it's like, those tools are relatively new, and the use of them are relatively new in this time span of, the internet. And that's just now kind of starting to happen, where like there's actually stuff happening to people that do swatting. So something like that, like brigading and online bullying, has to happen too. And it's a much, harder level, because it's like you have to, individually, as an individual that has somebody that's gone through that and you want to like have justice for something like that, you have to go and figure out how to find the information you need to give to a law enforcement agency. You have to then like figure out what kind of lawyers you have to have, what kind of charges you can actually press, etc., etc. It's really complex, but I hope it happens someday, because that's when that stuff will start to stop happening. In addition to parents not letting their crotch goblins be total assholes online too. That's the other aspect of it as well. In a lot of cases, the legal repercussions have to happen first for parents start realizing what's going on. Like, let's say you have like a group of 9, 10, middle schoolers that brigade one of their classmates they hate into doing something. Well, the parents are legally responsible for what their kids do. So now the parents get brought up on these charges, and it's like, everybody pays attention. I think there was a case like that recently, wasn't there? Like in the last 10 years, something like that happening. Where the parent was charged with manslaughter or negligent manslaughter or something like that, for the actions of what their kid did. We need something like that on the online bullying space. Because I think in that case it was actually like their kid actually killed somebody, like physically in person did it. So yeah, this video is crazy, and I think this is the anthem of the modern internet, honestly, and everything that this video entails and says about the modern internet. This is the anthem of the modern internet, as much as like Nyan Cat and like what does the Fox say and Gangnam Style were like the anthems of the internet pre-2010s or early 2010s. This is the post-2020, post-2016, post-2019 era internet theme song here, and it is crazy intense and terrifying, because it is 1000% accurate. And in a way, it's also the theme song of the earlier internet too, because everything that we have now was built on top of things that were put into place back then by people that had a long-term vision of how they wanted to use the internet to make money and to addict people to it to make money. And they actually did it, and it's now in place, and here we are. So what do we do about it? I don't know. And can anything be done? Some small things, but in general, I don't think there's really much we can do to fix things that have been broken by that whole aspect of how the internet's kind of developed. You can try creating a new internet, but then that same thing is just going to transfer over to, because the monetary incentive for it to continue means that it will never end until money becomes a thing that is no longer sought after, until it becomes a thing that's no longer has meaning, and that's not going to happen for a long time. So yeah, things are probably just going to get worse. And we'll have to figure out ways to make those worse things not so bad. But I think the current trend we're on is not going to stop. It's just going to keep going and getting worse and more pervasive, and then eventually something will have to give, but it's going to be a really rocky road to get there. Yeah, no, definitely go watch the original video. Go spread this around, show it as many people as possible. Explain it to them if they don't quite get it, because the more people are aware, like I'm pretty sure most people on the internet and a lot of people that were around for the early stages of the internet and have been on the internet long enough to like feel the shifts that have been happening over time probably know about this stuff, or know they have ideas of it, and the concept of what this video kind of lays out is pretty easily understandable. But like people that are just getting on the internet, have only been on the internet for like a couple of years, 5, 6, 7 years, something like that, may not have experienced the shift that has happened, right? Even just like a small shift, like from the 2010s to the 2020s, there's a huge difference in the 2010 internet and the 2020 internet. Massive difference. There's a ocean of difference between the early 2000s internet and the 2020 internet, right? And some people just haven't been alive and online long enough to feel the shift happening, right? But they will, because it's always changing and always re-entrenching itself into more and more of the bad things, both in terms of the content aspects, but also in terms of the manipulative tactics websites will use to keep you on their site and consuming content. So the more awareness there is out there, the more stuff can happen. Like with Stop Killing Games, that has gone, the campaign is over now, or will be over in August, but it's succeeded in getting the signatures it needed, and it's getting even more now. And there's even been, I think, a member of the EU has come out and said they support the idea of what Stop Killing Games is for. So there's it's actively drawing attention and potential, has a really high potential for change, right? Because of the awareness that's been raised through the movement and everybody that's made content about it, to kind of try and raise awareness. Same thing with this. The more awareness you bring to how the internet's been manipulated and how we've been manipulated to use the internet, the more potential there is for change to happen, right? And this is a much bigger problem than Stop Killing Games is. The fundamental way the internet is constructed is way bigger than that. But we can still change it. It'll be, almost an impossible task to fully do, but we can change it in ways that matter. And it just starts with raising awareness. So, yeah. Definitely spread this thing around. Yeah, thanks again, Trashkin, for recommending this. Again, I'm not going to do these every day. It's going to be very often that I'll do reactions, but every once in a while we'll do something like this. But yeah. So thanks for watching. Comments, questions, leave them below. It's been 3 hours. I'm sure, or no, an hour and 2 hours, 22 minutes. I'm sure that a lot of people are like, why is he talking so goddamn much? How did you turn a 4-minute video into 2 hours of content? Well, this is what you're supposed to do. I take it way too far usually, but this is what you're supposed to do in a reaction. So yeah, I will catch you guys for on the next one of these, or on whatever else I'm working on. I've got a couple of different video game series going on at the moment. One's only active right now, the episode of Rebirth one. Getting ready to start up the tutorial series again. for too long here. But yeah, so feel free to comment below if you have any thoughts on anything that I've talked about or that Bo's talked about. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Until then, this is Olympic Games, and I will see you guys later.